She sits on the porch swing of her Tennessee ranch, dusk settling over rolling pastures and the distant silhouette of her iconic boots hanging by the door. At 70, Reba McEntire finally leans forward, arms resting on weathered wood, eyes reflecting decades of spotlight and song, and a story few have heard. When Kelly Clarkson burst onto the scene as America's first idol, their paths seemed worlds apart. Reba, country royalty with chart-topping hits and CMT awards lining her walls, Kelly, a pop-rock phenom still finding her footing. Yet behind the microphone glitter and taped smiles, a bond forged in shared struggles and mutual respect blossomed, one that Reba kept close to her vest until now. Tonight, under a sky brushed with twilight, she tells the truth about Kelly Clarkson, the singer she mentored, the friend she protected, and the artist who surprised her at every turn. Reba first spotted Kelly long after the season finale cameras had stopped rolling. It was 2003 in a ballroom glittering with trophies, where country stars mingled with TV personalities and executives jockeyed for the next big breakout. Kelly slung an armful of awards, her smile bright as neon, but something tugged at Reba's instincts, that raw vulnerability peeking through. "I saw a little piece of me in her eyes," Reba would recall later. She remembered the audition tapes Reba had watched as a judge, voice trembling, tears glistening when she finally heard her own name called. Fame, Reba knew, could carve away innocence faster than a runaway train. So she pulled Kelly close backstage, handing her a small vial of lavender essential oil. "Breathe this when you need quiet," she whispered. "Trust me, you'll need it." Their mentorship unfolded in whispered hallway conversations and late-night phone calls. Reba invited Kelly to her tour bus, where she introduced her to the simple comforts of home, cooked chili and 90s country playlists. She shared war stories of chart battles and label negotiations, cautioning Kelly about the fine line between personal truth and public persona. Kelly soaked it in, peppering Reba with questions about vocal health, where to find the best fiddle players, how to handle ruthless gossip columns. At first, Reba assumed Kelly would stick to pop radio formulas, but she quickly discovered her protege's fearless hunger for authenticity. She'd ask, "How do you sing heartbreak so it feels like someone's standing beside you?" Reba laughs now, voice warm. "I realized I was teaching her more than she was teaching me." As Kelly's career pivoted from a moment like this, showstopper to Grammy-winning powerhouse, their friendship hit rough patches. When Kelly famously moved away from her country roots to chase pop, rock riffs, critics accused her of betrayal, an echo of Reba's own crossover controversies decades earlier. Reba remembers reading the headlines and picking up the phone. "Baby, don't let them tell your story for you. You write the verses." Kelly, hurt by slights from both Nashville purists and pop critics, confided in Reba about nights she'd wept alone in hotel rooms, questioning her choices. Reba sat by her side, offering sage advice and reframing the narrative. "Your voice is your truth. If where it leads isn't country road, then follow it anyway." Kelly emerged stronger, blending guitars and steel pedals on albums that defied easy labels. Their shared resilience deepened when Kelly faced personal struggles that rarely made tabloids. In 2013, after her split from her first husband, she retreated from the public eye, canceled appearances, and disappeared from social feeds. Reba flew to Atlanta under the pretense of business, an award ceremony that never materialized. Instead, she spent 3 nights on Kelly's couch, brewing lavender tea and listening as her friend unraveled anxieties about divorce, motherhood, and looming fame. Kelly later credited those hours with saving her sanity. Reba recalls how Kelly drew up a playlist of empowering anthems, Aretha Franklin, Patsy Cline, Fleetwood Mac, and they sang duets until tears turned into laughter. "She reminded me that healing can be louder than heartbreak," Reba says, her gaze drifting toward the horizon. Reba's truth doesn't end with mentorship. It's about shared passions offstage. Line dancing lessons at local honky-tonks, spontaneous jam sessions where Kelly wielded the tambourine, Reba coaxing her into harmonies and steel guitar riffs. They cooked together in Reba's farmhouse kitchen, kneading dough for biscuits and swapping family recipes that traced back to Oklahoma and Texas roots. Over bowls of chili and apple pie, they dissected song structures and soul-searching lyrics, challenging each other to dig deeper. Kelly dubbed one experimental night, the Heels and Tequila Sessions, where they tested live tracks with tequila sips gleaming in the lamplight. Out of that playful grit came Kelly's breakthrough country collaborations, proving that genuine genre blending could sound like backyard alchemy. Tonight, as the cicadas hum and the first stars pierce the velvet sky, Reba holds a vintage rehearsal binder filled with Kelly's handwritten notes. She turns the yellowed pages, each scrawl a testament to late, night inspiration chord progressions, lyric fragments, cross-references to Emmylou Harris and Joan Jett. "These aren't just songs," Reba murmurs. "They're blueprints of a journey that few have seen." At 70, Reba reveals that her protégé became her equal. Kelly's fierce honesty on The Kelly Clarkson Show, her unabashed tears on stage, and her fearlessness tackling injustices through music. Reba smiles softly, voice edged with pride. "She taught me that truth isn't a spotlight moment. It's every note you sing when no one's watching." Late one January night, Reba heard a soft knock at her ranch house door. Pulling on a cashmere shawl, she opened it to find Kelly Clarkson standing in the moonlight, eyes rimmed with fatigue but bright with purpose. "I had to hear your voice," Kelly whispered, clutching a creased lyric sheet. Reba invited her inside, brewed a fresh pot of coffee, and watched as Kelly began to sing through a new ballad she'd written about resilience. The notes trembled at first, then grew stronger with each refrain. Reba realized Kelly was still chasing the perfect balance between power and nuance, a quest Reba knew all too well. Over the next months, the two artists retreated into Reba's barn-turned-studio, where hay bales doubled as stools and twinkle lights draped from rafters like silent witnesses. Kelly introduced Reba to her newfound love of pop, punk chord progressions, while Reba shared the subtleties of three-part country harmonies. They recorded demo tracks together, Reba's warm alto weaving through Kelly's crystalline belt. One morning, Reba walked in to find Kelly teaching a local fiddle player how to sync a bluegrass break with a rock-infused beat. She has an ear for merging worlds. Reba marvels now. "Kelly's fearlessness in experiment taught me to lean into my own instincts again." Their collaboration reached center stage at the CMA Awards, where Reba surprised Kelly with an impromptu duet of My Church and Mama Song. When their voices intertwined over the hushed arena, the crowd erupted in cheers. Backstage, Kelly hugged Reba fiercely, tears shining in her eyes. "Thank you for showing me how to find my home in song," she said. Reba smiled, thinking how far Kelly had traveled. From timid idol contestant to commanding presence who could sell out arenas in minutes. Yet privately, Kelly still wrestled with doubts. Fear that her voice sounded too polished or not country enough for die-hard fans. Reba took those doubts personally. In private coaching sessions, she worked Kelly through vocal exercises Reba had developed during her early tours. Sustaining breath through long phrases, adding texture by subtly shifting mouth shapes, and using silence as much as sound to convey emotion. One afternoon, Reba placed a metronome between them and had Kelly sing a simple line. "I am stronger than my doubt." First hurried, then stretched out over 8 counts. By the third run, Kelly's voice quivered with sincerity. "That's where the truth lives," Reba said. "You don't have to be power or softness. You can be both." When Kelly launched her own Las Vegas residency, she invited Reba to be her special guest. On opening night, Kelly dedicated her first song, "Because of You," to Reba's unwavering mentorship. Reba watched from the wings as the audience rose in applause, confetti sparkling like fireflies in the chandelier light. Kelly stepped into the spotlight, extended her hand to Reba, and said, "This stage is ours." In that shared moment, they transcended genre boundaries. Country fans embraced pop-rock energy. Pop fans discovered country soul. Together, they demonstrated that authenticity can bridge any divide. Behind the scenes, Reba's advocacy shielded Kelly from industry gossip that threatened to overshadow her artistry. When tabloids speculated that Kelly's marriage struggle signaled a career derailment, Reba called label executives to correct the record. She appeared on morning shows, offering anecdotes about Kelly's kindness, how she'd spent time tutoring underprivileged youth in songwriting and singing lullabies to new mothers at local hospitals. Reba's unwavering support reminded the public that Kelly's worth extended beyond Billboard charts. Even as their careers soared, they found time for simple respite. On crisp autumn afternoons, they'd mount horses on Reba's ranch and ride through tree-lined trails, singing ballads to the crunching leaves. Kelly laughed when Reba insisted on pausing to practice harmonizing on a lone pine branch. "We're artists in every moment," Reba teased, "even when we're offstage." These rides reaffirmed that friendship thrived in the quiet intervals between performances. Tonight, as nightfall deepens, Reba closes her eyes and listens to the distant echo of Kelly's laughter carried across the fields. She traces the worn edges of a shared composition notebook, its pages crammed with scribbled chord diagrams and lyrical half-lines. "These aren't just songs," Reba murmurs. "They're blueprints of a journey that few have seen." At 70, Reba finally tells the truth, that Kelly Clarkson is more than Protege or Yanra Bender. She's a kindred spirit whose courage reminded Reba to keep chasing her own voice. Under the moonlit sky, Reba whispers a vow to continue championing Kelly's art, just as Kelly championed hers, because in every note lies the truth they both have lived. Reba knows this is only the opening line of their shared story. Together, they will keep writing its melody. Winter's thaw ushered in a fresh chapter for Reba and Kelly. As spring dripped through Reba's barn-turned studio windows, the two women found themselves unpacking truths they'd long held close. Kelly confessed that amid sold-out tours and chart-topping singles, she'd wrestled with crippling anxiety and fear of failure, a secret she'd buried beneath powerhouse belts and pop anthems. Reba listened and shared her own scars the nights she lay awake after her first divorce, wondering if her career was worth the personal cost. In that space, mentor and protege became sisters in arms, their vulnerability forging a bond beyond music. When Kelly faced postpartum depression after the birth of her second child in 2017, she dialed Reba's ranch at dawn. Reba, who'd weathered grief and reinvention in her own fertility journey, drove through early morning mist to be by Kelly's side. She brought mason jars of soup simmered with rosemary and sage, herbal remedies Reba's grandmother had taught her. They sat on the porch swing, Rebecca draped in quilts, as Kelly opened up about dark thoughts that clashed with her joy. Reba held her hand, refusing to diminish Kelly's pain. "You are stronger than your storm," she whispered. "Aren't storms always pass?" That quiet reassurance offered Kelly the space to seek therapy and return to her work with renewed clarity. In the months that followed, Kelly's songwriting took on new urgency. She penned "Brave Enough," a ballad co-written with Reba in a Nashville hotel room after midnight. The lyrics, "I stood at the edge and I learned to fly," echoed both women's journeys from fear to freedom. They recorded a demo in Reba's studio, Reba's alto complementing Kelly's soaring octave on the chorus. When the song debuted on Kelly's album, listeners recognized its raw honesty lines about midnight tears, sunrise redemptions, and the resolve to keep walking forward even when legs trembled. Reba beamed from backstage, proud that Kelly had turned personal pain into universal healing. Their collaboration extended beyond music. In 2018, they co-hosted a benefit for the Nashville Women's Foundation, raising funds for survivors of domestic abuse. Standing side by side on stage, they swapped anecdotes. Kelly teasing Reba about teaching her two-step lessons, Reba recounting Kelly's habit of scribbling lyric ideas on napkins at honky-tonks. Together, they auctioned off a Heels and Hardy, packaged front row seats to both their shows, a private doot session, and a homemade biscuit breakfast at Reba's ranch. The event sold out in hours and brought in six figures, which they split evenly between the foundation and a mental health initiative for young artists. Meanwhile, Reba's current tour faced a hurdle when she lost her voice after unexpected sinus infection in late 2019. Unable to perform, she felt adrift. Kelly, on her own world tour, rearranged dates and flew to Birmingham to sit in Reba's dressing room. She delivered hot towels scented with eucalyptus, coached warmed-up vocal exercises, and read aloud journal entries from Reba's early career, a reminder of how far she'd come. Reba admits now that Kelly's presence reminded her that age is no barrier to artistry or rebellion. "Kelly showed me that the fire inside never dims unless you let it," Reba says. Within days, Reba's voice returned stronger than before, and she dedicated her comeback performance to "My Fearless Friend." As global events shifted, the two friends leveraged their platforms to address social justice. In 2020, when country radio faced calls for greater representation, Reba and Kelly sent a joint letter to major stations urging more airplay for artists of color. Citing Kelly's earlier struggles crossing genre lines and Reba's own lessons from fellow trailblazers like Charlie Pride, their public appeal sparked a meaningful dialogue in Country Music Association meetings and inspired emerging artists who saw two generations uniting for inclusion. They followed up with a virtual retreat, inviting songwriters from diverse backgrounds to workshop material on equity and empathy, with Reba and Kelly as facilitators. Their partnership even reached television. When Kelly launched The Kelly Clarkson Show in 2019, she invited Reba for a week-long residency together. They filmed segments on Classic Country Reimagined, where they performed duets of Patsy Cline's Crazy and Stevie Nicks' Stop Draggin' My Heart Around. Behind the scenes, they wrote a sketch called Idol Meets Rodeo, lampooning their generational differences. Kelly's obsession with midnight snacks, Reba's insistence on structured etiquette at formal dinners. The episode broke daytime TV viewership records and demonstrated that humor and mutual respect could bridge decades in entertainment. And yet, through all the fanfare, Reba and Kelly never lost sight of personal milestones. They celebrated Kelly's sobriety anniversaries with afternoon tea on the ranch veranda. They toasted Reba's 70th birthday at a small family gathering in Oklahoma City, where Kelly surprised her with a custom song written for the occasion. To a queen of country and kindness, Kelly sang, her voice cracking with emotion. Reba wiped away tears, recalling how their unexpected friendship had taught her new lessons about trust and reinvention. Tonight, as fireflies dance above the Tennessee fields, Reba holds the weathered lyric sheet Kelly brought that January night, tracing the scrawled words, "Idge, flight, home." She reflects on a truth few knew, that Kelly Clarkson has been her fiercest ally, a relentless collaborator, and a mirror reflecting Reba's own strengths. Their journey, full of detours through doubt and redemption, stands as proof that mentorship flows both ways. At 70, Reba McEntire finally tells the world the truth about Kelly Clarkson, that beneath the microphones and bright lights lives an artist whose courage helped Reba rediscover her own. In the hush between crickets, Reba whispers, "Our song isn't finished yet." Summer's heat found Reba and Kelly back on stage together at the Nashville Riverfront Festival, where the Mississippi River's current mirrored the momentum of their partnership. From the opening chords of Fancy, blending into Kelly's soaring riff of Since You Been Gone, the audience felt the electricity of two generations united by song. But the real magic happened offstage, in the festival's green room corridors, where the pair convened songwriting circles for young talents who often didn't see themselves reflected in mainstream country or pop. Reba led a workshop on storytelling through melody, while Kelly coached contestants on vocal projection and stage presence. The energy was palpable as aspiring artists scribbled lyric scraps in notebooks as Reba and Kelly circulated among them, offering encouragement that transcended genre boundaries. Their mentorship model evolved into a formal nonprofit, Strings and Voices, aimed at providing instruments and vocal lessons to underfunded schools in rural areas. Reba and Kelly chaired its inaugural gala in a converted barn south of Nashville, inviting donors and educators to witness student performances. One young woman, having only ever heard country music on old radio static, sang an original ballad inspired by Kelly's journey. As she finished, tears glistened in Kelly's eyes, confirming that every tutorial and workshop had rooted itself in real impact. Reba smiled beside her friend, recognizing that their shared vision had grown wings as strong as any hit single. While Reba and Kelly championed music education, they also addressed industry practices, advocating for equitable pay and transparent royalty structures. Issues Reba had encountered early in her career but seldom spoke of. Together, they drafted an open letter to major labels, demanding standardized contracts that protected songwriters' rights and guaranteed session musicians' health benefits. The letter, signed by dozens of artists across genres, rippled through conference rooms and editorial pages. Critics lauded the initiative as revolution from the ranch and Clarkson's call for fairness. Yet both women remained focused on substance over hype. They hosted webinars demystifying contract jargon, ensuring that up-and-coming artists could navigate negotiations with confidence. Their collaboration extended into television once more. In 2021, NBC greenlit a special titled Homegrown Harmonies, featuring Reba and Kelly traveling through America's heartland to explore musical traditions. From Cajun steps in Louisiana bass to gospel choirs in Mississippi churches. Behind the cameras, their report was as candid as ever. Kelly teased Reba about her name, dropping of grand ole Opry etiquette, while Reba ribbed Kelly for her habit of annotating song lists in colorful marker. The special averaged over 10 million viewers and won a Daytime Emmy for its authentic portrayal of American culture. Reba and Kelly credited its success to the respect they showed each community, an extension of the trust they'd always placed in each other. Amid these ventures, Reba faced new health challenges. A diagnosis of osteoarthritis in her knees made long tour days grueling. Photos surfaced online of Reba pausing mid-performance, hand on thigh, wincing through choruses. Kelly, currently on her own world tour, immediately arranged for a team from a sports medicine clinic to travel with Reba's crew. She arrived backstage with custom knee braces and a playlist of guided stretches she'd researched for dancers. When Reba slipped the brace on before a packed arena, she felt Kelly's meticulous care in every calibrated strap. That night, Reba dedicated her entire show to Kelly, announcing, "This woman has my back, literally, The crowd roared in approval, a testament to the unbreakable bond beneath the spotlight's glare. In quieter seasons, Reba and Kelly retreated to their respective homes for reflection and renewal. Kelly hosted Reba at her Los Angeles estate for digital master classes during pandemic lockdowns, teaching her how to live-stream acoustic sessions and engage remote audiences. In return, Reba invited Kelly to her Oklahoma ranch, where they rode horses at dawn and processed life's complexities over mugs of hot apple cider. Kelly opened up about balancing divorce proceedings with motherhood, while Reba shared lessons about reclaiming joy after personal loss. These retreats reinforced that their connection thrived on mutual vulnerability, an antidote to the relentless pace of celebrity. As the festival season wound down, Reba and Kelly convened one final event, a co-headlining appearance at the CMA Awards, marking Reba's milestone 50th award season and Kelly's 20th anniversary since winning Idol. They performed an unplugged set, Reba on acoustic guitar, Kelly on piano, delivering a haunting rendition of Maybe It's December, interwoven with Stronger's What Doesn't Kill You. In that quiet spotlight, their voices wove layers of experience, heartbreak, triumph, and unassailable friendship. As they held hands and bowed, the standing ovation echoed across generations. Tonight, back on Reba's porch, swing under a sky ablaze with stars, she reflects on every harmony they've crafted, both sung and unsung. She touches the pages of their joint memoir, still in progress, its chapters chronicling victories and vulnerabilities alike. At 70, Reba finally tells the truth about Kelly Clarkson, that beyond the awards and albums lies an unquenchable spirit whose courage rekindled Reba's own. Their story, etched in late-night jam sessions, philanthropic crusades, and whispered confidences, remains a testament to the power of shared truth. And as the cricket chorus swells, Reba glances toward the barn-turned studio where their next chapter awaits, knowing that the melody of mentorship and friendship will play on long after the final chorus fades. By early 2022, Reba and Kelly found themselves back in Nashville, shoulder to shoulder on the stage of the Grand Ole Opry, recording a live album that celebrated their 2 decades of collaboration. The historic venue gleamed under golden lights as the two women traded lead vocals on classic country ballads, then surprised the audience with raw, unplugged renditions of Kelly's pop anthems. Microphones captured every breath, every imperfection, and the audience noise, cheers, wipes of tears, and spontaneous whoops became part of the recording's texture. Backstage, Reba wrapped Kelly in a hug after the final take, whispering, "We did it again." That embrace, caught on a roaming camera, would later grace the album's cover art, a snapshot of intergenerational solidarity. When the album released 2 months later, it debuted at #1 on both country and pop charts, a testament to their combined fanbases and to the authenticity of two artists refusing to be limited by genre labels. Critical response went beyond the numbers. Music critics praised the live album for its raw intimacy, noting how the imperfections, Kelly's soft catch in the throat on one line, Reba's tender elongation of a wistful note, made the performances feel like private conversations. Rolling Stone declared it a masterclass in musical kinship, and Country Weekly ran a feature titled, "One Icons Unite," spotlighting not only the powerhouse vocals but the genuine rapport that shone through. Fans shared clips on social media of older parents watching alongside young children, both generations discovering something new in the blend of voices. For Reba and Kelly, the response affirmed their core belief that truth in music transcends categories, and that vulnerability can be a bridge rather than a barrier. Emboldened by this success, they channeled their momentum into a new venture, an annual Songwriters Sanctuary retreat held on Reba's Tennessee ranch. Their vision was simple: create a safe haven where emerging women writers could refine their craft under the guidance of established professionals. The inaugural weekend drew 24 participants from across the country: blues lyricists, folk troubadours, R&B poets, and country storytellers. Reba led morning sessions on narrative structure and ballad form, while Kelly hosted late-night workshops on vocal arrangement and melody. Between sessions, the group gathered around a fire pit as Reba strummed her guitar and Kelly added spontaneous vocal riffs, generating impromptu song ideas that would later become workshop material. By retreat's end, several attendees had written complete demos, and the energy sparked plans for a scholarship fund to sponsor future cohorts. Meanwhile, on the television front, Kelly invited Reba for a recurring Coach's Corner segment on The Kelly Clarkson Show. In each short feature, Reba offered on-the-fly vocal advice, shared stories about original Nashville recording sessions, and critiqued viewer-submitted cover performances. The segment became a fan favorite. Viewers tuned in to see Reba's no-nonsense pointers delivered with warmth and humor, and Kelly's exuberant applause whenever her mentor nailed a constructive critique. Ratings for the show saw a noticeable uptick on the day's Coach's Corner aired, proving that audiences craved genuine mentorship moments in the splashy world of daytime TV. More importantly, the recurring collaboration reinforced the message that learning never stops, no matter how many platinum records you've sold. Personal challenges continued to test their bond. Reba's osteoarthritis progressed to the point that she needed weekly physical therapy. Kelly's youngest children entered unpredictable toddler stages that occasionally forced her to cancel recording sessions days before deadlines. The two women leaned on each other. Kelly flew in physical therapists familiar with entertainment demands to work with Reba between tour dates, while Reba organized a rotating nanny share among her team so Kelly could tackle late-night writing sessions without worry. On more than one occasion, Kelly recorded vocals in Reba's home studio at midnight, her tiny children asleep in adjacent rooms while Reba brewed chamomile tea and reviewed lyric drafts at her side. Their joint willingness to adapt schedules, trade expertise, and carve out childcare solutions spoke volumes about the depth of their friendship. As the retreat gained traction and their live recordings cemented, Reba and Kelly returned to the written word, drafting a co-authored memoir that wove together equal parts career anecdotes, personal confessions, and musical analysis. Chapters alternated between Reba's early years in Oklahoma and Kelly's Texas upbringing, but always looped back to the moments when their paths intersected: a chance meeting in a makeup trailer, a surprise phone call in the middle of the night, sweaty rehearsals in cramped studios. They included pull-out lyric sheets illustrating the evolution of songs like Brave Enough, side by side with journal entries showing how each phrase transformed from fledgling idea to rallying cry. The manuscript's manuscript editor later remarked that the gold thread running through the narrative was unapologetic honesty, a quality both women had championed throughout their careers. Tonight, as the cicadas hush and fireflies flicker around Reba's porch, she sets aside that memoir draft and gazes toward the barn where they first recorded demos. Through the open doors, she can still hear echoes of Kelly's tambourine thumps and the strum of her own guitar. She closes her eyes, remembering the lavender oil vial, her first gift to Kelly, and smiles at the journey those simple seeds of kindness have borne. At 70, Reba McEntire finally tells the truth about Kelly Clarkson. Not just the raw talent or chart milestones, but the camaraderie, the late-night confessions, and the unwavering support that has defined their shared story. As the first stars appear overhead, Reba whispers, "We're just getting started." When the calendar flipped into a new year, Reba and Kelly found themselves charting courses they once only dreamed about. Flights were booked for joint speaking engagements at music schools in Canada and songwriting seminars in Australia. Calls came in from the Kennedy Center, inviting them to curate a gala honoring women in music, 20 trailblazers who had shaped their own journeys. Together, they deliberated over honorees, debating whether to spotlight unsung studio engineers or indie folk lyricists whose words resonated like gospel in rural towns. Reba's decades of country wisdom mingled seamlessly with Kelly's modern pop sensibilities, each offering perspective that honored tradition even as it embraced innovation. They sketched plans for duets, panel discussions, and surprise mash-ups that would underscore a single theme, unfiltered expression. Back home on Reba's Tennessee ranch, preparations for the memoir release took shape beneath a canopy of magnolia trees. Kelly flew in between tour dates, and the two of them sat side by side at a long farmhouse table. Poring over final chapter notes in the golden afternoon light, they laughed over story edits. Reba teasing Kelly about the time she nearly froze onstage in Calgary, and Kelly ribbing Reba about her notorious backstage line, dancing mishap at the ACMs. Between corrections, they sipped sweet tea and plotted a joint book tour that would combine readings with stripped-down acoustic performances. Their publisher had suggested separate events, but neither woman could imagine celebrating their shared truths apart. "Audience members will feel the heartbeat of our friendship," Kelly insisted, because it's as much the story of two girls learning from each other as it is about music. Meanwhile, Strings and Voices expanded into a year-round initiative, establishing satellite chapters in 6 rural counties across the Midwest. Reba and Kelly launched a web series where they invited program graduates to perform, teaching viewers at home that mentorship doesn't stop at borders. One episode featured a 12-year-old guitarist whose inaugural recital had been cut short by stage fright. Kelly guided him through breathing techniques she'd learned during her anxiety ridden idle days, and Reba shared a story about trembling knees before Opry House lights. By show's end, he delivered a flawless solo on Stevie Nicks' Landslide, sending ripples of applause through virtual chat rooms. Reba and Kelly exchanged triumphant high fives, reminded once more that small acts can spark profound transformations. As spring unfurled, a documentary crew arrived at the ranch to capture intimate moments for a forthcoming streaming special titled Unfinished Harmonies. The cameras recorded Kelly teaching Reba how to craft a TikTok challenge, an off-beat experiment the country icon agreed to test for the first time. Reba, skeptical at first, improvised a line dance routine set to Kelly's pop anthem, Meaning of Life, and the ensuing blooper reel went viral across platforms. When they chased giggles in the yard, sharing tips on vocal runs and cowboy boot styling, viewers saw that authenticity glowed brightest when perfection gave way to real laughter. Reba watched playback footage with misted eyes. The inevitable generational gaps dissolved in genuine delight, and she realized that vulnerability made them both approachable mentors for the digital generation. Summer brought an invitation that felt like destiny, a joint headline slot at the inaugural Harmony Harvest Festival, a curated gathering of cross-genre performers, food artisans, and craft makers slated for a reclaimed cotton mill in North Carolina. The festival's mission resonated deeply with both women to foster creative collaboration in spaces historically sidelined by mainstream industry. Reba and Kelly selected a lineup that ranged from gospel quartets to alt-rock collectives advocating inclusion beyond token appearances. They hosted a free community jams stage where local artists performed between their set changes, ensuring grassroots talent shared billing with marquee names. As Reba and Kelly closed the festival with a sun-lit rendition of Together We Rise, the crowd's harmonized voices felt like the natural crescendo of years spent building bridges. Behind every milestone stood moments of quiet reflection. Reba often retreated to her equestrian trails at dawn, riding Old Blue beneath a pastel sky as she pondered the trajectory of their partnership. She'd practice a new harmony they'd composed that same night, letting the melody drift through pines like an unspoken prayer. Kelly, during downtime between tours, curled up in her Los Angeles loft with the memoir manuscript, touching the margins marked by Reba's handwritten notes of encouragement. Both women found solace in revisiting the lavender oilville Reba had given Kelly on that first backstage meeting, an emblem of trust now resting on Kelly's bedside table. As their shared tapestry neared its next act, Reba and Kelly embraced an enduring truth that telling the whole story requires both courage and compassion. They recognized that Oscars, Grammys, and CMA awards might gleam brightly, but they pale beside the quiet triumphs of healed hearts and inspired youth. Tonight, on the porch swing overlooking fields where fireflies weave patterns in the darkness, Reba reflects on the winding path from mentor and prodigy to co-creators of a multi-generational movement. At 70, Reba McEntire finally told the truth about Kelly Clarkson, and in doing so, charted a new course for artistry rooted in shared vulnerability. So as crickets serenade the night, Reba and Kelly look toward tomorrow's chorus, a chorus led not by solo spotlights but by collective voices united in authenticity. Their song remains unfinished, its next verses composed in classrooms, on stages, and in countless quiet conversations waiting to be told. And as the first star appears overhead, Reba whispers into the hush, "We're only getting warmed up."